This is Mr. Eugene, and today we're talking about something most people will dance around but won't tell you straight. That woman who just discovered she wants a serious relationship after a decade of anything but. She didn't evolve. Her options did. If you can't see the gap between actual growth and calculated adjustment, you're walking into a trap that will cost you everything that matters. I'm about to show you what actually shifts for women who've cycled through multiple partners once they cross into their late 30s. Why this sudden interest in stability isn't the awakening it looks like. And how to avoid becoming the consolation prize she's repackaged as her dream choice. This isn't condemnation. This is reading the map. This is grasping the realities of female instinct and chemistry so your choices come from clarity instead of hope. Because there's a surge right now of women approaching 40% insisting they've finally cracked the code on what matters. And what matters, they say, is finding a solid man to build a future with. The real question is whether she picked you or whether you're just what's left. Here's what shifts for women past 35 that completely rewires how they think about partnership. Fertility doesn't taper off gently, it collapses. At 35, egg viability starts dropping hard. By 38, natural pregnancy odds shrink noticeably every 12 months. At 40, that biological door is slamming shut, and she feels it closing. This isn't speculation. It's reproductive science that every woman grasps mentally but usually dismisses emotionally until ignoring it becomes impossible. That push you're feeling from her to lock things down, to establish where you stand, to map out the future fast, that's not always longing for you in particular. That's survival instinct kicking in. She moved through her 20s and early 30s, assuming time was infinite. Society reinforced it. Build your career, rack up experiences. Discover yourself. Postpone motherhood. Modern fertility treatment has it covered. You can have everything whenever you want. Now she's staring down 37 or 39%. Her physician is delivering very sobering updates about conception probability and chromosomal risk. Fertility loss isn't just numbers on paper. It's higher miscarriage likelihood, greater odds of genetic issues, more dangerous pregnancies, costlier and more invasive procedures if conception fails naturally. She's watching peers burn through IVF rounds at $20,000 each with zero guarantees. She's seeing women in her circle grappling with infertility they never saw coming. So when she's accelerating commitment talks, when she's insisting on not delaying things, when she's building urgency around engagement schedules, you need to grasp what's actually fueling that speed. You're not just being invited into partnership. You're being drafted to fix a problem that's been compounding for years, while she chose differently. The next major shift past 35 is her complete repositioning in the attraction economy. The pursuit, the variety, the overflow she enjoyed all through her 20s evaporates faster than most anticipate. Men who chased her relentlessly at 28 aren't chasing the same way at 38. Successful men in their 30s and 40s with means and influence have access across broader age ranges, and instinct draws them toward younger women who signal better reproductive outcomes. That's not cruelty. That's hardwired selection backed by biological logic. So at 36 or 37, she notices something unsettling. The caliber of attention has changed. The dynamic, accomplished, magnetic men she dated lightly in her 20s have redirected toward younger options. The men expressing real interest now are often guys she'd have dismissed instantly 5 years earlier. Consider what that means practically. You're a decent guy, stable work, good principles, reasonable shape. You reached out when she was 31 and she either ignored you entirely or met once and vanished because you didn't deliver the thrill she was hunting back then. Now at 38, you're getting eager replies. She's available. She wants to know you better. She's talking about how she appreciates reliability and character now. What transformed? Did you suddenly become compelling, or did her stronger prospects evaporate, making you viable by elimination? That's the uncertainty that will corrode your marriage if you don't resolve it truthfully before signing anything. Because somewhere in her mind, she understands she's compromising. And that understanding breeds a toxicity that infects everything, even when she doesn't consciously acknowledge it. Studies on bonding and attachment reveal some difficult truths. Women who've moved through many brief connections frequently develop what researchers describe as evaluative conditioning. Their thinking gets wired to perpetually assess alternatives, to scan for improvements, to suspect something superior exists elsewhere. By 35, after years in that mode, something else surfaces. A permanent low-grade discontent that no relationship can resolve because the flaw isn't the relationship. The flaw is a mental framework built over years of rotating partners and detached intimacy. You'll notice this appear in particular behaviors that corrode things gradually. She struggles with closeness as genuine connection because her past trained her to maintain emotional separation even during physical contact. There's a rehearsed quality to affection instead of real warmth. She has difficulty remaining focused on what you're building because her attention keeps drifting to mental comparisons, either romanticized memories of former partners or fantasies about undiscovered possibilities. She can't navigate ordinary relationship friction without threatening exit because she learned that when difficulty appears, you simply leave and locate someone fresh rather than resolving anything. Her ability to work through conflict is stunted because she never needed to cultivate it, and progressively there are psychological complications, unease, low mood, attachment struggles. These track with patterns of relationship chaos. By her late 30s, many women are seeking therapeutic help for issues whose roots they can't fully identify. But rather than linking those struggles to relationship decisions, they typically attribute them to circumstances, misfortune, terrible partners, cultural demands. This is the critical distinction you must recognize. When a woman in her early 20s chooses commitment, it's typically fueled by authentic attraction. She wants to create something with someone she's drawn to and respects. The commitment itself is what she desires because she wants that specific person. But when a woman with an extensive romantic history suddenly pursues commitment in her late 30s, the driver is fundamentally altered. She's not necessarily committing because she wants you in particular. She's committing because she requires the protection, consistency, and family framework before her window shuts permanently. It's calculated survival dressed up as romantic intention. She needs someone to supply resources and partnership for the family she wants before biology blocks it completely. She needs someone to prevent ending up isolated at 45 after spending youth on connections that dissolved. You're not her victory. You're her answer to circumstances she generated. And she'll harbor resentment toward you for being that answer, even while depending on you to provide it. This bitterness surfaces in destructive patterns over time. She drops subtle remarks positioning you below men from her past. She restricts intimacy as leverage because genuine desire never motivated selecting you. She criticizes constantly because you embody the life she accepted rather than the fantasy she believed she merited. She makes you feel fortunate she picked you, and the truth is she's lucky you overlooked her background. Let me outline the specific behavior markers that characterize this phase so you can identify when you're being positioned as acceptable rather than actually wanted. First marker, she's suddenly responsive to men she completely dismissed before. If you're a steady, modest income, respectable guy who couldn't capture her interest at 30 but now at 37 she's actively pursuing you, your actual worth didn't shift. Her situational reality did. You became tolerable by default when her favored choices vanished. Listen to how she frames what attracts her now versus what she actually pursued historically. She'll say things like, "I used to fall for the wrong kind, but now I understand I need someone dependable and grounded." Translation, "I used to prioritize chemistry and excitement, but now that those men won't lock down with me, I'm willing to accept men I'm not genuinely drawn to if they offer security." Second marker, intense pressure around commitment and progression. There's no room for patience, no natural evolution, no organic pacing. She's immediately discussing exclusivity, biological deadlines, refusing to invest in anything casual. She's manufacturing urgency because time works against her. The longer things develop, the more you'll observe beneath the facade. She needs you legally and financially bound before you gain perspective. This shows up as particular expectations, exclusive status within weeks, family introductions within months, cohabitation discussions before you've faced any real challenges, marriage and children conversations before you have witnessed her across enough situations to know her actual character. And if you attempt reasonable pacing, she creates penalties, emotional distance, invented drama, absolute demands. Third marker, displaying a form of femininity that contradicts her track record. She's suddenly engaged in domestic skills, supportive behaviors, embracing conventional partnership roles. But examine her 20s and early 30s. No indication she ever valued or practiced those things. It's theater, designed to secure a provider, not genuine expression of identity. And the instant she obtains commitment and security, that performance dissolves. Watch for disconnects. She claims to enjoy cooking, but her kitchen shows minimal activity. She discusses being nurturing, but her history shows autonomy and resistance to partnership. She dresses conservatively with you, but her digital footprint shows years of attention-seeking presentation. She claims traditional principles, but her social circle consists entirely of modern, autonomous women. These contradictions expose performance instead of authenticity. Fourth marker, aggressive defensiveness about her past. She actively prevents you from investigating or learning how she actually existed before deciding to pursue stability. A woman with nothing concealed doesn't behave like she's hiding something. She blocks inquiries, redirects conversations, becomes emotional when you ask normal relationship history questions. She provides unclear, evasive responses. She accuses you of insecurity or control for caring about her background. She reframes your reasonable information seeking as your personal failure. This signals she's withholding details that would alter your willingness to commit. Fifth marker, you're receiving a fundamentally inferior version compared to what previous men experienced. They received her youth, her peak physical state, her genuine enthusiasm, her authentic desire, her adaptability. You receive her at 37 with fading appearance, accumulated baggage, intimacy dysfunction, entitlement, inflexible demands, and a catalog of things she refuses that she absolutely provided to earlier partners. She delivered her best to men who never committed. You get the remainder while being expected to supply far greater commitment, resources, and tolerance. They received eager access with minimal investment. You receive obligatory intimacy monthly after marriage while providing housing, stability, and legal binding. This isn't partnership. This is the worst exchange disguised as relationship. The culture spent generations selling women a particular story. Your 20s and 30s exist for professional advancement, accumulation of experiences, exploration, personal development. Marriage and motherhood can be postponed because contemporary women can access everything at any age. That was a purposeful deception advanced by ideologies and commercial forces that profit from women working rather than forming families early. The biological reality is that female fertility, physical appeal, and bonding capacity peak in early 20s and decline sharply by mid-30s. A woman who consumes her prime years in unstable connections doesn't just sacrifice time, she sacrifices her capacity to successfully bond with a husband. But culture suppressed these facts and condemned anyone mentioning them. So an entire generation followed the program, squandered their optimal window, and now they're in crisis as reality collides with illusion. That crisis fuels the "I'm ready now" wave. These women aren't ready. They're frightened. And frightened people make panicked choices. Panicked partners become catastrophic spouses. So how do you separate authentic transformation from desperate repositioning? First, analyze when and why her priorities changed. Did she begin wanting marriage and family in early 30s while still having abundant choices? Or did it conveniently emerge past 35 when her options contracted? If the shift aligns with declining market position rather than internal development, you're observing strategy, not evolution. Second, assess her accountability. Does she accept complete responsibility for previous decisions and their consequences? Or does she blame partners, culture, circumstances, or external forces? Real change demands total ownership without justification. Performance involves victimhood and blame displacement. Third, verify consistency. Are the conventional values and feminine patterns she demonstrates now consistent with how she operates when she assumes you're not observing? Does she maintain relationships with women who reject those values? Does her online presence still reveal validation-seeking tendencies? Does she keep backup male attention active? If yes, her presentation to you is fabricated. Fourth, challenge her patience with relationship timelines. If she's genuinely prepared for partnership because she's internally transformed, she'll accept healthy pacing. If she's desperate, she'll generate constant pressure around commitment because time threatens her and her performance can't sustain indefinitely. Fifth, notice how she references past partners versus how she engages you. If she speaks about exes with residual attraction or regret energy while treating you with reduced enthusiasm and increased criticism, you're the acceptable option. If she discusses prior relationships with genuine ownership and treats you with authentic respect and appreciation, there might be possibility she's different. But be ruthlessly honest in evaluation. Most men deceive themselves because they're isolated, they've invested effort, or they doubt they'll find superior. The brutal truth is that most women with extensive relationship backgrounds past 35 cannot successfully convert into dedicated wives, regardless of assertions otherwise. The damage to bonding capacity is substantial and mostly irreversible. The evaluative conditioning is chronic. The resentment about compromising simmers constantly. And the performance of conventional femininity cannot persist once she secures marital commitment. If you're a man in your 30s or 40s and most available women match this description, you face genuine decisions. First, you can accept her performance and hope she's the statistical exception. That's wagering with dismal probability. Second, you can pursue younger women who haven't accumulated equivalent history and damage. This requires sufficient value to attract women significantly younger. Financial success, physical condition, social capability, and willingness to navigate the maturity difference. Third, you can withdraw from conventional commitment entirely and either stay single, maintain casual arrangements, or seek women from cultures where promiscuity remains heavily discouraged. Each path carries costs, but what you absolutely cannot do is disregard these patterns and commit while convincing yourself it's irrelevant or that emotion overcomes everything. It's relevant. Emotion doesn't overcome biology and conditioning. Data on divorce and marital quality confirm that relationship history stands as one of the most reliable predictors of relationship success. Culture labels this truth as fragility or hatred. Intelligent men recognize it as pattern observation and risk assessment. If this framework clarified dynamics you sense but couldn't articulate, understand you're not isolated. Millions of men are processing these precise situations right now, attempting choices that will shape their entire futures. The objective isn't rejecting women or avoiding partnership completely. The objective is making informed choices grounded in reality rather than presentation, in demonstrated patterns rather than verbal commitments, and in what someone has actually shown historically rather than what they claim they've recently become. You deserve someone who genuinely selects you, who desires you authentically, who commits because they want you specifically, not because you're the remaining viable option when preferred choices evaporated. Don't accept being someone's compromise. Don't pledge your resources, your future, and your emotional investment to someone performing temporary adjustment driven by biological urgency rather than authentic transformation. If you've dealt with a woman past 35 in her "I'm ready now" phase, drop "encountered" in the comments if you dated one, or avoided if you recognized the dynamic and walked away. Let's measure how widespread this actually is. And if this provided value, subscribe. This channel exists to deliver truth about relationship mechanics that mainstream narratives actively conceal to keep you confused and making decisions that serve everyone except you. The truth might sting, but it's far less damaging than discovering it after you've already committed everything.